Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wildcats Roundup here on the Wildcats Network YouTube channel. I'm Richard Hilbig alongside with Tristan Borland, and we welcome you to the final episode of the summer Wildcats Roundup for the 2024 Gridiron Wildcats here at Rossi Field, the home of Greater Latrobe Athletics. And Tristan, for this month's or this kind of cycle's episode, we are reminded that while offense may be flashy in today's generation of football, but defense ultimately wins you games and gets you championships.
Absolutely, and I think that the Wildcats are very lucky because they have, I would argue, quite the mastermind in terms of building a defense. Ron Prady, I mean, nobody can forget the fact that Ron Prady's defense helped Penn Trafford win that state championship a couple years ago, and Ron Prady has once again prided himself in building an incredible defense here at Greater Latrobe.
Well, for the Wildcats, their defense will feature some three-year starters, but it will also feature a lot of depth, particularly their linebacker group of Chris Cochran, Jack Dorenovich, Braden Bronson, and Alex Tash, their secondary duo of Andy Tash and John Wetzel, and their defensive line depth led by Cody Krall and Marco Scarton. So for the Wildcats, they will have their options at their disposal pretty much at every game.
And we have a little bit of a cheat sheet here on the Wildcats Network because we were welcomed by Coach Ron Prady to go to the 7-on-7 that they had, what was that, a couple weeks ago at this point?
Yes, it was.
We were able to go there, watch the Wildcats play, and let me tell you what, Richard, that secondary was incredible. But Coach Prady reminded me, he's like, that's not quote-unquote real football. You'll be able to run special blitzes. John's going to be able to run out of the pocket whenever he feels the pressure when there's no options for him to throw to. So, but we still got a little bit of an idea of what kind of secondary Ron Prady is going to be working with this year.
And you mentioned Ron Prady. He made his mark at Penn Trafford with defense. He even made his mark as a coach with defense. It's important to know that defense is his calling card.
It is, and I think that Ron Prady is going to be really excited to talk to us today about that defense. What we're seeing in practice, Richard, they seem to have simplified a lot of things. Whenever you hear them call any kind of audibles or they call the coverage on the field, they're using one-word phrases, and usually that means just maybe one or two different kind of coverages.
Keep in mind, friends, we are counting down the days to the season opener at Connellsville on Friday, August 23rd. For more on what the Wildcat defense is doing and for what the final days of summer practices hold for the Wildcats, here's head coach Ron Prady.
Folks, here in Fez's office in Arnold Palmer Fieldhouse, Tristan Borland alongside me is the star of our show, head coach Ron Prady. Coach, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy summer to come and chat with us today.
No problem, guys. I love doing it. I don't think I'm the star of this show.
Really?
It's you and Rich.
I think you mean Richard.
That's
Richard's
for sure.
the star of the show.
No, you guys are the stars. I'm just here to fill time and space.
So as we kind of chug along here, we're now in August. July is behind us and June is behind us. What have you seen from your team so far this summer as you guys have been to these practices week in and week out?
Well, one thing we haven't seen is the physicality that, you know, we're just not allowed this week during heat camp. So that's something we're looking forward to next week, to see how physical we are, both in the run game and on defense and on special teams. But right now we're seeing, you know, just some fine tuning of the offense, timing work on offense, which I think is coming along great. You know, working on defense, communicating a lot, making sure that we're lined up right, we're in the right spot. So those are the things that are going on now. Plus a lot of conditioning, getting ready for the long season and taking care of our bodies.
So you touched a little bit about how our last roundup we talked all about your offense, and I always mention that I think this is your favorite episode of our roundups whenever we talk about the defense that you're so famous for building. We got to see a little bit of your defense at the 7-on-7s for the Westmoreland Coaches Association. What did you see out of your defense based on that 7-on-7?
Well, I think you only see half of it, obviously. You know, it's football in shorts. It's not real football. The competitive nature of it is good. The timing of it on offense and some of the things that, you know, the communication on defense and compete level are all things that we look for in the 7-on-7s. But in real football, you got to be able to stop the run. You know, you obviously don't see that in the summer. So at this point, that's where we're focused, is making sure that we're lined up right, making sure that we're communicating, making sure that we're getting off the ball, you know, getting ready to run through tackles next week and doing the things that it takes to play great defense and especially stopping the run. You stop the run, you make people one-dimensional, you got a great chance to win.
Now, when we talk about the 7-on-7 and you talk about kind of some of the players in the defense that stood out to you at the 7-on-7, for me, it was Andy Tash and, of course, John Wetzel on both sides of the ball, and Andy as well. Something that I noticed at the 7-on-7s is that when there were plays called or adjustments made, by either the coaches or on the field, it was John and Andy who was calling them out. Is there a specific reason why? Is it just their position, or do those players themselves bring something to the table that makes you go, you need to be the shot caller?
Part of it is the position they play. Typically, you make adjustments from the back end and of the defense, and those two guys are the safeties. So they kind of get a view of the whole picture. And when we do need to make adjustments, they are typically the guys that do that, especially in coverage. Now, we have guys that communicate, in the middle level in Braden Bronson and Jack Drenovich and Owen Burkett and Alex Tash. They make our calls, our strength calls, the formation strength calls. So they do that, and then John and Andy kind of echo things behind them and make sure that everybody's in the right place. And so some of it has to do with the position they play, but also those are two experienced kids. John started 24 games now or more, because he started some as a freshman too, and Andy's played 12 games, and we feel comfortable with those guys being our communicators in the back end.
Are there any other defensive players from the 7-on-7 that kind of stood out to you?
Well, as you know, we lost our two corners from last year, and I thought Sawyer Butinas played really well all summer, and he's come a long way, and I feel like he's ready to step into that role and be a guy to make an impact on defense. And right now we feel Tyler Bauer is another kid that can step in at the other corner or at a corner at any time and make plays, along with Danny Noonan and Aiden Roach and Vince Gasky. So it's kind of those five guys kind of battling for two, but it's great when you have depth like that, because we do play some packages where we take a linebacker off the field and bring another DB in. So we're going to need all those guys at some point this year, so it's great to have that depth.
Now, when you mentioned earlier about the 7-on-7, that just because there are defenses on the field, that's not your whole defense. That doesn't really show the opposing team the full capacity of the Square Latrobe defense. The defensive line for the Wildcats, how much do you think they're going to help your defense take it to the next level?
They're going to have to. And again, we have a bunch of experienced guys up there. Cody Krall's been around 2 years. Timmy Myers has been around for 2 years starter. Caleb Lehman's another guy that's started 2 years on offense and has played a ton on defense. So offense and defense, those are the guys that make things go. We're going to rely on those guys up front to make a bunch of plays. And we have other guys too. Marco Scarton has come back from an injury last year, and Anthony Scarton's progressed a ton, probably more than anybody. He's improved probably the most in the past 2 years. So we feel like there's depth there and guys that are capable of making plays and stepping in and being effective for us up front.
So when we last talked, you had mentioned, especially back in June, that there's only one game that you're worried about right now, and that's week 0 at Connellsville. So you keep talking about how you're preparing for that game. What exactly are you preparing for? Is there anything that Connellsville does? Is it the Woodruff tree that's going to give them an advantage over the Cats?
Well, at this point, we're focused on us. And it is a cliche, and coaches say it all the time, but I doubt there's anybody right now preparing for their week 0 or week 1 opponent. Everybody's focused on themselves and seeing growth and improvement in all areas, offense, defense, special teams, and individually. As we get closer, maybe next week, the back half of next week, we'll do a little bit of prep for Penn Hills for the scrimmage. Not much, maybe one day, just introduce our guys to what they do offensively and defensively. But after that, come Monday, it's going to be full bore, completely focused on Connellsville and Connellsville only, and that's the most important game we have of the year, is that first one. So that's where our focus will be, and that's when we'll start focusing on that.
When you have that week 0 game, you want to set a tempo, you want to set a mindset. And it's something that I've heard from these practices is that you want to make sure that your players stay hungry. They have that mindset that they're the underdogs in every game. Is that a mindset that you're trying to bring into Connellsville?
Oh, it has to be. As a program the last 2 years, we've made strides, but we still haven't won anything. And the goal is to win a championship. We haven't done that. So we have to, that chip on our shoulder, that edge, that hunger to be great. I think that's what has made us progress the most in these last 2 years, is to play with that chip on our shoulder, play the underdog role, which we were a lot, and we embrace that. If we lose that as a coach, then you lose your edge a little bit, and we don't want to do that. So play to that underdog role, play with that chip on our shoulder, play with that edge that we need to be great. I think our guys will, knowing these guys that we have, they'll embrace that.
And my final thing, you keep talking about having this edge, this drive, this tenacity that I hope you carry throughout the whole season, because once again, just like in previous years, the Wildcats Network is going to be at every single football game that you guys have. Near, far, wherever you guys are, we're going to be there as well broadcasting that game. What does that mean to you as a coach to have broadcast crew follow you to every game and make sure that everybody, no matter who you are and where you're at, you can watch the Wildcats play?
Well, it's special. It doesn't happen everywhere. It probably doesn't happen at very many places that have guys do what you guys do. And I know I joke with you guys and a lot probably, but sincerely from myself and from the staff and from the program in general, we appreciate what you guys do. And I mean, you guys work your tails off, and the exposure that you guys give to our kids and allow people from near and far away to watch games. I have people out of state that I'm friends with, in Florida, people all over the country, different parts of the country that watch us every week. And that's thanks to you guys and what you guys do. And we're grateful for that and appreciate everything that you guys do. You guys are the best.
Well, Coach Ron Prey, I appreciate your time today, and I wish you the best of luck in the season to come. But folks, that's not it for us here on the Wildcats Network. Richard Hillway gets to talk to one of the leaders down on the line and in the trenches, Mr. Cody, Kral, and Richard, coming up next.
Thank you, Tristan. Cody, now that you guys have reached August and you're here starting Heat Week over these next couple of weeks, do practices feel a little bit different now, and what steps are you guys taking to kind of adjust to the status will be like on Friday nights?
Yeah, so over the summer we can't really do much with our run game. Now in August, when we can put our pads on and start getting after it a little bit up front and getting on people and getting into our run game, we started working that really hard because we're pretty run heavy, I'd say. All our guys look good. All our leaders, we're starting to click. Everybody's starting to click a little bit. Still working on a couple spots, but I think overall as a team, I think we're going to be good.
The lineman group is one that I think gets a little bit underappreciated, but on this team in particular, it sticks out really well with what you guys, you mentioned run first. It sticks out with a lot that you guys do. And I've also noticed over the summer and over the past couple of years how close it really is. What makes it so special?
All of us are we all have the same common goal, and we all just want to win. And we know that if we don't have a good game, then all the guys behind us are going to struggle. So it's always our goal to protect those guys behind us. And it's just like, not even just worried about protecting them, but it's just that brotherhood and knowing that you got to have their back and they'll have yours.
I mentioned the lineman group. Defense in particular led the way in the second half of the season that allowed you guys to win 6 of your final 8 games, including the playoff win at West Allegheny. How do you guys kind of approach trying to get back to the level of defense, knowing that some pieces aren't coming back this year due to graduation, but to kind of replenish what maybe needs to come back this year from the intensity that the guys that are coming back this year?
So we return a lot of guys, which is good. That intensity every day that, the older guys in the group have to bring and come to practice with every day, just knowing we have to push each other, and then the young guys follow behind that. They work just as hard as we do, and if they push us, it makes everybody better. So just that competitive spirit within the team and the D-line especially, it really helps everybody. One
thing that's important to note about this year is that you guys have a lot of seniors. You mentioned a lot of returners, but the senior class in particular, there's a good bit of you, high-end contributors, and a lot of depth for this year.
Yeah.
And you guys have embraced being leaders, and I think that carries over from being starters and relatively consistent players for this team for a couple of years now. Has it been easier to embrace the role of being a leader, knowing that over the past couple of years, you guys have produced on the field and also learning from the seniors before?
Yeah, definitely learning from the seniors before, learning what it's like to be a good leader, that distribution between player and leader. More working so to prove it with what you're doing on the field and not be like yelling at them and trying to coach them that way, just showing them by example that way and helping them when they need examples. But just in general, as being like a leader, it's a lot easier when you have a bunch of good guys on the team, like Brady, Alex, John, Jack, all those guys. We've been playing together since we were in kindergarten. That just bond between us, I think, it makes us a tighter knit group. So it's easier for us to have each other's backs and lead everybody because we all have that common goal.
Is it hard to believe that it's a month away from Connellsville already?
I think it's less than a month now, but it's super exciting. I think it'll be a good test, though. They're always tough. We just need to go down there, handle business as normal, and then get to week 2, whoever that is. But we're playing week by week here, so.
That mindset, is it week by week as throughout that season, not just in that game in particular?
I mean, we're always looking at the game ahead of us. So, if we're playing Connellsville, we're worried about Connellsville, nobody else. So we're going to work hard to prepare that week, focus on Connellsville, and then once Saturday morning hits and we watch film on that, we're already on to the next group, looking to compete looking to win every game out there. There's not a game we can't win.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.